Pooh Shiesty, one of the biggest rappers to come out of Memphis in recent years, is reportedly in critical condition after allegedly being jumped by Crips inside a federal prison. But this story goes way deeper than a simple prison fight. This is about loyalty, gang politics, and the brutal reality of what can happen when a famous rapper enters the federal system thinking their name alone will protect them. Spoiler alert, it won't. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what reportedly happened to Pooh Shiesty, why it may have happened, and why this has become one of the craziest stories in hip-hop this year. Let's get into it, but before we break everything down, let's set the stage first. Some people watching might not fully know who Pooh Shiesty is or why this situation has the internet going crazy right now. Trust me, once you understand his background, the rest of this story hits completely different. Pooh Shiesty, whose real name is Lontrell Dennell Williams Jr., is a rapper from Memphis, Tennessee. Born on November 8, 2000, he became one of the hottest young artists in rap while still barely in his 20s. While most people at that age are still trying to figure life out, Pooh Shiesty was already going platinum and taking over the charts. After signing to Gucci Mane's 1017 Records, he came into the rap game with serious momentum and quickly became one of the most talked about artists in hip-hop. His debut mixtape, Shiesty Season, dropped in January 2021 and bro, that thing was a monster. It debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200. Number 4 with a mixtape. Not an album. A free project, and it still charted top 5 nationally. Then he dropped Back in Blood with Lil Durk, and that record went certified platinum multiple times over. The boy was on fire. And then just like that, it all came crashing down. In October 2021, Pooh Shiesty pleaded guilty to a federal charge of conspiracy to commit robbery. The situation stemmed from a 2020 incident where Pooh Shiesty and some associates allegedly robbed 2 men at a hotel in Bay Harbor Islands, Florida. During that robbery, one of the victims got shot. I'm not here to make jokes about that a man got shot, and that is not funny. But it was serious enough for federal charges to get involved. And once the feds are involved, you already know how that goes. In August 2022, Pooh Shiesty was sentenced to 5 years and 3 months in federal prison. In the federal system, you typically serve 85% of your sentence, no early release for good behavior like in state prison. So he's looking at serving the vast majority of that time. He was sent to a low-security federal correctional institution, which at the time seemed like okay, at least it's not somewhere super violent. Y'all are not ready for what happened next. Because this is where the story goes from rapper goes to jail to something genuinely disturbing on a whole different level. Reports started coming out that Pooh Shiesty was not having an easy time in prison. Now on the surface that might sound obvious, it's prison, nobody's having a good time. But it goes deeper than that. Because Pooh Shiesty is a famous rapper. He's got millions of followers, certified platinum records, and money. You'd think that kind of name recognition would give you at least some level of protection, right? Like, people know who you are, they respect the music. Maybe you get a pass. No cap, that is not how federal prison works. Not even close. In federal prison, your reputation on the outside means virtually nothing. What matters is where you're from, what sets you claim, what your affiliations are on the inside, and whether you're willing to hold your ground when things get physical. Street politics don't pause just because someone went platinum. If anything, being famous makes you a target because now you're somebody other people want to make a name off of. You're a trophy. And that is an incredibly dangerous position to be in. Now let me break down the specific incident, because this is the part everybody's talking about and I want to get it right because there's been a lot of misinformation floating around. According to multiple sources, Pooh Shiesty was involved in a serious altercation inside the federal facility where he's being housed. And we're not talking about a little scuffle in the yard. We're talking about a coordinated jump. Multiple people reportedly affiliated with the Crips attacked him at once. And during that altercation, Pooh Shiesty reportedly suffered significant injuries, including, and this is the part that went absolutely viral, getting a tooth knocked completely out. A tooth was knocked out. Bro. Now look, I know people online were making jokes about this, and I get it, the internet is the internet. But when you really sit with what that means, a tooth knocked out tells you the level of violence in that fight was severe. You do not knock someone's tooth out with a light punch. That is serious blunt force trauma to the face. That means Pooh Shiesty took some real damage in that fight. And the reports of him being in critical condition, which is what caused this story to explode, suggest the injuries went way beyond just the tooth. We are talking about a situation serious enough that there was genuine concern for this man's life. That is actually insane when you think about it. But before I get into the full breakdown of what went down and why, you need to understand prison gang politics, because without that context, you won't fully understand why Crips specifically would be targeting Pooh Shiesty. And this is where it gets really deep. Pooh Shiesty is from Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis has its own gang culture that is very distinct from Los Angeles, Chicago, or any other major city. Memphis street culture is heavily rooted in homegrown sets and affiliations that developed independently. And this is crucial. When Memphis artists blow up and their music reaches a national audience, they inevitably get associated with certain gang affiliations, whether they are explicitly claiming them or not. Pooh Shiesty has been publicly associated with the Bloods, specifically through artists and people in his circle who rep Blood sets. And when you enter federal prison, you are navigating a completely different ecosystem, because federal prisons house people from everywhere. You might be from Memphis, but now you're locked up with people from Compton, South Central, Chicago, New York, and every single one of them brought their affiliations with them. So when you have a prominent figure associated with a blood-affiliated circle walking into a facility with a significant Crip population, that is a recipe for exactly the kind of conflict that reportedly happened to Pooh Shiesty. This is not random. This is not senseless. In the world of prison gang politics, this is almost, and I hate to say it, almost inevitable. The streets don't stay outside when the door closes. Are y'all seeing how deep this goes? And here's where it gets insane on another level. Because there's a question a lot of people have been asking, and it's a legitimate one. Why doesn't Pooh Shiesty just go into PC? For those who don't know, PC stands for Protective Custody. It's a separate housing unit where inmates who are at risk get separated from the general population. And on paper, that sounds like the obvious solution, right? Famous rapper at risk, just go into PC and you're safe. But here's the thing. In prison culture, going into PC carries a massive stigma. We're talking about one of the most socially damaging moves you can make in that environment. Requesting protective custody is seen as an admission that you cannot handle yourself in the general population. It's seen as a weakness. And once you're labeled as someone who ran to PC, that label follows you even after you get out. On the streets, people will say you checked in. They'll say you couldn't hold your own. And for someone like Pooh Shiesty, someone who built his entire image around being authentic, around coming from the streets, around being the real deal, going into PC would be seen as the ultimate contradiction of everything he's put out into the world. His music, his persona, his whole brand is built on being solid. And in street culture and prison culture, those two worlds are not as separate as people on the outside think. A decision made inside can absolutely destroy your credibility when you walk back out those doors. So Pooh Shiesty is stuck in an impossible position. Asking for protection would cost him his reputation and credibility, things directly tied to his career and his standing. But not asking for protection means staying in a situation where he is clearly at risk of serious physical harm. Bro, that is honestly one of the most heartbreaking dilemmas I've thought about in a long time. No cap. Now let's talk about what daily life in federal prison actually looks like for Pooh Shiesty. Because a lot of people have this Hollywood idea of what it's like being a celebrity behind bars, and the reality is so different from that. First of all, he does not have his own cell. He does not have special accommodations. He does not get better food or a nicer bunk because he has platinum records. In a low-security federal facility, you're in a dormitory-style setting. Open bays, multiple people, very little privacy. You're living in extremely close quarters with people from different backgrounds, different affiliations, and different regions of the country. Now some people might think, okay, but at least people are going to show him love because of his music, right? Like at least he can bond with people over the music. And yes, being famous can help to a certain extent. People know who you are and recognize your music, and some may even respect your success. But fame inside prison works both ways. Because for every person who respects you, there's another person who wants to test you simply because of your name. Inmates want to see if the image matches reality. Others want to prove a point by challenging someone with status. And then there are people looking to benefit from your fame, whether that means money, commissary, or clout from being connected to your name. That's where the financial side of prison becomes a major issue too. People know Pooh Shiesty has money and support on the outside. Even though inmates cannot directly access outside wealth, everyone understands that celebrities can have money sent to their prison accounts through friends, family, or business associates. And in prison, that can instantly make someone a target. Some inmates may try to pressure you for commissary, demand favors, or attempt extortion. The mindset becomes, you have resources, so pay up. And if somebody refuses, situations can reportedly escalate into violence very quickly. So in a strange way, being rich and famous in prison can actually create even more danger instead of protection. But beyond the physical threats, there's another side of this situation people rarely talk about: the mental toll. What allegedly happened to Pooh Shiesty physically is serious enough on its own. But imagine the psychological side of all this. This is somebody who, in his early 20s, went from being one of the hottest artists in hip-hop, traveling, performing at festivals, recording music, and living the celebrity lifestyle to suddenly spending years inside a federal prison. And while he's locked away, the world keeps moving without him. The music industry keeps evolving, new rappers keep blowing up, tours continue, albums drop, and life outside keeps going while he watches it all from behind bars. New artists are blowing up every year. Meanwhile, rappers who were coming up alongside Pooh Shiesty are still building their careers, releasing albums, going on tours, and continuing to grow their success. And from inside a federal prison, he can only watch all of it happen from a distance with limited communication and no real way to be part of it. That kind of psychological pressure is something most people cannot fully understand. And now, on top of losing his freedom, being separated from family, and watching his career move forward without him, he's also reportedly dealing with violence and constant tension inside prison. According to reports, he's living in an environment where danger can become real at any moment. That's another harsh reality about federal prisons that people don't always think about. Guards and prison staff cannot be everywhere at once. In many facilities, the staff-to-inmate ratio is stretched thin, and when fights or attacks break out inside dorms or prison yards, situations can escalate very quickly before officers are able to step in. At this point, this story goes beyond internet gossip or rap drama. We're talking about a real person reportedly dealing with an extremely dangerous situation behind bars. So naturally, people are asking serious questions. What is the Bureau of Prisons actually doing to protect Pooh Shiesty? What steps are being taken after these reports surfaced? Those are questions his legal team and family are almost certainly demanding answers to right now. But here's the frustrating part. The Bureau of Prisons is known for being very secretive about incidents that happen inside federal facilities. They usually do not publicly discuss inmate altercations, prison violence, or internal investigations. There are no public press conferences every time something serious happens behind those walls. Most information only reaches the outside world through inmates, attorneys, leaked communications, family members, or short phone calls and visits where pieces of the story slowly come together. What we do know is that when a serious incident happens, especially one that leaves someone in critical condition, there are supposed to be clear protocols in place. Medical treatment, official documentation, and a full investigation are all supposed to follow. The victim is supposed to receive proper care, and those responsible are supposed to face consequences. But this is where the system often fails, again and again, for both famous and non-famous inmates. In federal prison, even after serious violent incidents, the response is often slow, incomplete, and doesn't really fix the deeper issue. Investigations may happen after the fact, but if the environment stays the same tensions, the same groups, the same housing setup, then the risk never really goes away. And that's the most alarming part. Because if Pooh Shiesty refuses protective custody and nothing changes in his placement or environment, the real question isn't if another incident could happen, it's when. No cap.